Hello YouTube, this is Pastor Green. We're doing another comic book series. Today we're doing the Godfathers. That's going to be Alberto Book 3. It's going to cover the Nazis, the Catholic Church, and communism. And in this book, they basically talk about how the Catholic Church started Nazis and communism. It actually starts off right here at the very beginning, talking about how the Nazis were created. It talks about how the Jews basically the Catholics didn't like the Jews very much. They actually wanted to take over the Jerusalem, and the Jews wasn't letting them. So they started the Nazis to basically um, get rid of the Nazis and the communists to get rid of the Jews out of Jerusalem. And that's why they started the Crusades. They started the Crusades right here to basically get rid of all the Jews and to do that in order so they could take over Jerusalem. And then what the Catholic Church did is they actually found these Jewish women, and they basically raped them, and that way they would have babies, and the babies would be half Jews and half Catholics. And then later in life, they basically took these kids and they sold them to the Muslims. The Catholic Church started the Muslims as well, sold them to the Muslims, and their hopes was is that once they find that the truth that the Muslims are with the Catholic Church, they're going to attack the Muslims, they're going to kill the Muslims, and then the Jews would, or the Catholics would be happy because then the Muslims would not be able to help, take over the Muslims would not be able to have space in Jerusalem. So only have to worry about the Jews. The Catholic Church actually created the Muslims to get rid of the Jews and the other Christians, and the Muslims rebelled against the Catholic Church, and basically said, we're gonna do our own thing. And people ask sometimes, why would the Catholic Church want to be in Jerusalem? Isn't St. Peter's bones in Jerusalem? But actually, they found out that St. Peter's bones are actually, and they thought that St. Peter's bones was in Rome, but they actually found out that St. Peter's bones was in a church in Jerusalem. And so what basically happened is when the Catholic Church was started, um, the Catholic Church would come in and they would take the pagan religions, the sun god, the Venus and Mars and things like that. They'd remind them, they'd change them over to the Catholic religion so that it says in here that like Jupiter became Apostle Peter and Venus became the Virgin Mary. And when Constantine started the Catholic Church, he basically told the whole entire nation that you're all now Christians. You have to fight against all the Jews. And it basically talks about how the Catholic Church split into two, the Eastern Catholics and the Western Catholics, and how they basically didn't really like each other very much. And so what they did is they actually the one of the Catholic churches started the Jesuits, which is these people right here. They call the Black Pope, and they're actually the muscle for the Catholic Church. And they go out and they basically attack people and they hurt people and they basically destroy different churches to help the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was trying to get a deal with Germany, and Germany wasn't having it, and so they tried to get a deal with the French, and the French actually joined Germany, and that was actually what they say the reason why World War I started. Later on, they basically were trying to basically find a way to attack the Jews and the Muslims. So what they did is they basically started the Communist Party. The Communist Party basically came in and basically took any kind of problems, and they were going after the Russians. And what happened is when they went to go after the Russians, the communists actually went to go attack it, and the Russians basically said, "Hey, we've been waiting for you. We're going to give you all of our gold as long as you attack the Catholic Church." And so the communists basically fought back against the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church didn't like it that much, and so they basically started fighting the communists. Later on, Pope 15th, Pope Benedict XV died, and so they basically wanted to find a way to basically get the Muslims back, or get the communists back. They signed a treaty with Mussolini. Here's an actual picture of that, to basically make the Roman Catholic Church um, the only church in Italy. Mussolini was in power. The Jesuits gave him a whole lot of money to basically follow the Catholic Church and lead the Catholic Church. So it says here that Mussolini made the Catholic Church the only Roman Catholic Church, the only church allowed in Italy. And then basically what happened is they wanted to also help with Germany, so they found another Catholic. His name was Adolf Hitler, to basically change over Germany so they can take over Catholicism as well. And they also found Franco, and so they had the Third Reich, Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco, and they basically did the same thing as well. The the Jesuits would go around and they basically say, hey, there's a Jew, you got to go get him. And this is the reason why that the Nazis didn't like Jews very much, is because if you go back a couple pages, after World War One, Germany was in a Great Depression. And so the Catholic Church went in there to these little poor Germans, and they basically bought all the land up, saying they were Jews. And so the Germans thought that the Jews were money hungry. They bought out the whole entire world. It was actually the Catholic Church that bought them out. And so they basically wanted to cause some strife between the Germans and the Jews, and that's why they did that. And while they were getting ready for their next World War, basically what happened is these Jesuits kept going in there and attacking the Jews until it got to the point where the Holocaust happened. The Nazis came in and started attacking the Jews, and they basically wanted to destroy the Jews so they could take over Jerusalem. And it says down here, I'll have to read it to you, what the ideal was. It says the Jesuits always prepared for reversals and set up the proper precautionary measures in case they lost in World War II. The first one, they made everyone believe that the Vatican had nothing to do with the war, and in time convinced the world that the Holocaust never happened. Number two, it said make sure the rebellious priests, nuns, and monks were basically put in concentration also, so they could convince the world that they too were persecuted. Number three is they ordered the Catholic families and priests to protect the Jews in their homes, so in the future they could make a good public relation material for films, books, etc. And the Jews here were actually already converted into Catholicism, but they said they were still Jews in order to make Catholicism look good. Number four is to put a new face by setting up the Vatican Council. And number five, to set up the communist pope from behind the Iron Curtain to please the communists and try to convert them to Catholicism, to fulfill their destiny, in which Pope Pius this 12th was deeply involved. So what the Catholic Church did is they put three symbols around the world. They put a symbol in Egypt, the Vatican, and in America, the Washington Monument. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but right up here on top, there's a symbol, and it's at all three of those places. And that's Messianic symbols talking about the four sides of the world, and it's got a lot of phallus and stuff like that. And they basically put that in different places. And people wonder why the Catholics did these type of things, and it starts talking about what happened. It said there was a virgin named Mary who gave birth to a son. Satan was mad that Jesus was born, so he basically sent Herod to go out and kill all the children, and so Jesus had to run to Egypt to get rid of Herod. And then John the Baptist said, right there's the Lamb of God. And they said, well, why would they call him the Lamb? And then they talk about why they call Jesus the Lamb of the world. it talks about how the Jews became slaves in Egypt, and basically there was Moses. Um, Moses was taught to free the Jews from Egypt, and what they did is they basically took a lamb and they slathered the blood of the lamb on the post of the door, and if the blood was there, then the angel of the Lord would pass over, and one of the punishments was your firstborn would die. And then later, Jesus came and he started teaching these things that were really contrary to what the Jews believed. He said, love your neighbors as yourself, and tore up all the different storehouses and said, you're doing a mockery. And then eventually they basically took Jesus and they beat him and they put him on a cross, made him all bloody and everything like that. And then they put him on the cross and they crucified him. And then 3 days later he was rose again and had 500 witnesses. And the sacrificing of the animals continued. The Jews kept sacrificing even though Jesus died. And so what the Catholics wanted to do is they basically started the Catholic Church, and they believe they're sacrificing Christ every single time they have service by physically turning the bread into the body, and the water into blood. So they're physically sacrificing Christ every single time because they want the sacrifices to continue. It talks about how Fidel Castro came into being because he was also a Catholic, and the KKK was established to get rid of all the Jews as well and the blacks and everything like that. And right here it talks about basically what the KKK was about. And this is because the KKK called itself Protestants and claimed to hate the Jews, Catholics, and blacks. It destroys the image of the true Bible-believing Christians who are trying to win these people through love. The KKK pulls the Catholics together for their own protection, and it makes the black people suspicious of the Protestants and drives them into the arms of the Vatican, into the new army of the black Jesuits for recruiting them across the United States. And it basically talks about how on the next page, all the different branches that the Catholics started. They started the Nazis. They started the Orthodox Church. It says that they started the Vatican, started the KKK, started the Masonic Lodge, started the Protestant Church, the Communists, and of course the Roman Catholics as well. And it says not long ago, many people of God believed the Pope was the Antichrist. Wycliffe, Luther, Calvin, Tyndale, Knox, Sir Isaac Newton, Fox, Wesley, Finley, Moody, Spurgeon. Could they all be right? It says, let's see what the popes say about themselves. Pope Boniface said, we declare, assert, and define and pronounce to be subjected to the Roman Pontiff and every human creature is necessary for salvation. So they're saying that the Pope is necessary for salvation. Pope Leo the 13th said, we hold upon this earth a place of God Almighty. So they're saying that they are God Almighty on earth. And Pope Nicholas says, I am all in all and above all. So is God Himself and I, the victor of God, but one consistory. I am able to do almost all that God can do. What therefore can you make of me? But I'm a God. And basically, they're saying you could choose to follow the Catholic Church, you could choose to follow God. And on the back part of it just talks about different things that happen, and then there's a little salvation down on the bottom. And it says if you get saved, read the Bible and stuff like that in the back. And that's basically all that the Godfathers is about. It talks about the different things the Catholic Church has done, starting the Nazis and starting the communism. And it's all done through the Catholic Church. The whole idea was to get rid of the Bible-believing Christians, so that way they could basically say they're the only Christians. They first started with the Muslims. They tried to have the Muslims get rid of the Christians, and that kind of backfired. And so the Muslims were fighting them. So then they wanted to attack the Jews, and that kind of backfired. So they started these different crazy things like the communists, the Nazis, the KKK, the, the Freemasons. They wanted to basically do everything they possibly could to take over and become the one true Christians. And it talks about in that book also that they think that the Catholic Church is the great whore in Revelations 17. So again, I appreciate you guys following me again. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like my page, also comment. That way I know what's going on. Let me know what you guys think about everything, and I will see you guys next time.